A millionaire ignored his pregnant wife until the hospital call shattered him. She thought the worst pain came from her husband's betrayal. But what if I told you the person who hurt her the most was someone she trusted like family? This is a story of heartbreak, deceit, and a fight for truth that will shatter your expectations. Stay until the end, because Amelia's journey is not just about survival. It's about reclaiming your power when the world tries to strip it away. Before we begin the story, leave a comment below. Tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our latest stories. Enjoy the story. The hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, but Victor Blake heard nothing except the pounding of his own heartbeat. The call had come in the middle of a quarterly earnings meeting, an arena where he ruled, where he spoke numbers into existence and bent projections to his will. Until now. Sir, your wife is in the hospital. She gave birth. But there are complications. The voice on the phone was clinical, robotic, even slicing through the polished tension of the glass-walled boardroom like a dagger. Victor Blake, a titan of the tech world, the man whose name graced magazine covers and Forbes lists, dropped the phone. The shatter echoed across the table. Silence followed. His executives, once eager to please, now frozen, stared as the king of their empire stood there, pale and hollow, the mask of power slipping. Without a word, Victor turned and walked out. Not ran, walked. Like a man whose world had just split open under his feet. 6 hours earlier, Amelia Blake lay curled on a hospital bed that felt colder than ice. The sterile white walls pressed inward, suffocating her. Monitors beeped rhythmically, but their sounds felt distant, like echoes from another life. She clutched her swollen belly now, agonizing with premature contractions. She had called Victor 5 times, left voicemails, sent texts, no reply. His assistant had sent a curt message, "Mr. Blake is unavailable, unavailable." She almost laughed, bitter and broken. She was giving birth to his child alone, and he was unavailable. They used to be more than this. Once upon a time, Victor had been the boy who brought her coffee, who danced with her barefoot in the kitchen, who whispered promises of forever beneath starlit skies. But that was before the IPO, before the investors, before the world crowned him a genius and forgot she existed. Now she was invisible, to the world, to him. The nurse entered, her smile soft but distant, trained. "Almost there, Mama. You're doing great." Amelia bit back a sob. Great. She was terrified, heartbroken and alone. Hurts like hell, she managed between clenched teeth. "You're strong," the nurse said, patting her hand. Strong. God, she was so tired of being told that. She didn't want to be strong. She wanted Victor beside her, holding her hand, telling her everything would be okay. But even in the pain, she knew better. He was never coming. Not truly. By the time Victor burst into the hospital, guilt was gnawing at the last pieces of his carefully curated facade. He stumbled through white corridors, past indifferent nurses, and the haunting scent of antiseptic that reminded him of death more than life. He hated hospitals. Always had. They reminded him too much of his mother, of the coldness of machines, and the absence of hope. Room 318. His feet froze in place. For a moment he considered turning back. What if she didn't want to see him? What if it was already too late? He pushed the door open. Amelia was there, her face turned away, her body limp, spent. But his gaze caught on the tiny glass incubator beside her. His daughter, so small, so still, too still. Machines surrounded her like a fortress. Tubes, wires, monitors, all blinking, all screaming silent warnings. She's stable, but The nurse began noticing his expression. She's early. There are risks. We're still waiting on tests. Victor's knees gave out. He sank into the plastic chair near Amelia's bed, his whole body trembling. I didn't know, he whispered, barely able to speak. Amelia turned her face pale, but her eyes sharper than glass. That's the problem, Victor. You never know. You're always the last one to show up, if you show up at all. Her words gutted him, because they were true, and yet nothing had prepared him for what she said next. I wasn't alone in the house, Victor. Someone pushed me. Someone tried to kill me. The words hung between them, sharp, unrelenting. Victor blinked. What? What are you saying? Someone was in the house. She nodded, her lips trembling, but her gaze unwavering. Yes, I heard them. I smelled them. And then, darkness. His world spun. This wasn't just an accident. This wasn't just a tragic fall. This was an attack. His wife had been ambushed. His child had nearly died. And where had he been? In meetings. On calls. In someone else's arms. Rage, fear, guilt, they all clawed at his throat. But when he reached for her hand, she flinched. It's too late for us, Victor, she whispered, her voice breaking. But it's not too late for her. She turned back to their daughter, her small chest rising and falling in fragile, imperfect breaths. Victor stared at the child he had nearly lost without ever meeting her. He had been so consumed by the empire he built, he hadn't realized his real empire was crumbling. That night, as Victor sat alone in the hospital's waiting room, the reality settled like lead in his bones. He had failed as a husband. He had failed as a father. But what terrified him most? He wasn't sure if there was still anything left to save. The night was suffocating inside the hospital's quiet waiting room. Yet outside, the city pulsed on, indifferent to Victor's crumbling world. He sat slumped in a rigid plastic chair. His tie loosened his phone, vibrating relentlessly on the metal side table. Emails, voicemails, meeting reminders, his other life continued to demand him. But for the first time, he didn't reach for it. His mind was somewhere else, haunted by the image of Amelia's hollow eyes, by the memory of his daughter's fragile chest struggling against the tubes. Hope. She had named her Hope. He closed his eyes, but the darkness was worse. It brought with it memories he had tried to bury, Amelia laughing on their wedding day, the way she used to call him her anchor, the nights they talked about building a family, a home. And now, this, he had failed them, and yet the nightmare was only beginning. Detective Marcus Hanley arrived just before dawn, his footsteps calm, deliberate. He was in his mid-40s, sharp eyes, hidden beneath a kind face that didn't seem easily rattled. "Mr. Blake?" he greeted, extending a firm hand. "Detective Hanley, I'll be leading the investigation into your wife's attack." Victor swallowed hard. The word attack still felt foreign, surreal. "Thank you for coming. I don't know where to start." Hanley's gaze didn't waver. "You start with honesty. And we start with your house." Victor nodded slowly, a part of him wanting to collapse under the weight of it all. But something inside him, perhaps for the first time in months, steeled itself. He had to protect what was left of his family. He had to find out who had done this. By noon, Victor was at his estate, standing inside the sleek glass walls that had once made him feel powerful, now suffocating him like a prison. Hanley combed through every room, methodically asking about entry points, codes, visitors. Victor answered what he could, his mind clouded by exhaustion and disbelief. "Who had access to your home in the last month?" Hanley asked, scribbling in his worn leather notebook. Victor's throat tightened. cleaning staff security contractors. My assistant, Veronica. He barely whispered the name. Hanley paused, his gaze sharpening. Veronica Martin. Victor nodded. Would your wife know about her? Victor closed his eyes. She suspected. I don't know if she ever confirmed it. Hanley leaned back, the weight of the truth settling between them. And now, do you think she might have been involved in the attack? Victor shook his head, almost on instinct. No, she wouldn't. She's not like that. Hanley didn't flinch. Mr. Blake, people are never who we think they are when the mask slips. Victor swallowed, but inside cracks were forming. That night, Victor sat in his car outside Veronica's upscale downtown condo. The light in her window was still on. Her silhouette moved behind sheer curtains. He didn't know why he came. Maybe for answers. Maybe for closure. Maybe for the truth he was too cowardly to admit. When she opened the door, she smiled like nothing had happened. Like they were still in the middle of their carefully choreographed affair. Victor. She purred, wearing his favorite silk robe, her perfume lingering like a ghost. I've been worried. Where have you been? He stepped inside without answering. The air smelled sweet, too sweet. Gardenia. The same scent Amelia remembered just before she fell. Victor's chest tightened. You were home the night of the attack, he asked, his voice ice. She blinked, caught off guard. Yes, of course. Why? He showed her the deleted security footage report from Hanley. Her face turned pale. You think Victor, I love you. I would never. But he wasn't listening to the lies anymore. Prove it, he said coldly. Where were you? Really, do you have an alibi? Her lips trembled. I was home. Alone. Then you can't prove anything. Her face contorted into something he hadn't seen before, fear mixed with rage. You're blaming me. After everything I did for you. After all the times I waited while you played house with her. Victor stepped back, his own disgust rising. But as he reached for the door, her next words froze him. I didn't do it, Victor. But I know who did. He turned, his heart pounding. Who? She hesitated, but the facade was breaking fast. Your driver, Alex. He's been holding something over you for months. Victor's stomach flipped. Alex had been with him for years. Discreet, loyal, always invisible. Or so he thought. He left without another word. That night, the puzzle pieces twisted into sharper shapes. Victor couldn't sleep. The man he trusted to drive his car to guard his family might have been the one to betray him all along. His world had never been what it seemed, and the deeper he dug, the more he feared the rot had started long before that night, long before Veronica, long before Hope's first breath. It had started inside him. The man who chased power so hard he forgot who he was chasing it for. Now he would have to face every ugly truth, but he wouldn't run anymore. Victor stood outside Alex's modest apartment on the city's east side, his breath misting in the cold night air. The neighborhood was a world away from the penthouse views and luxury that Victor was used to. Here the streets whispered of forgotten promises of struggle. He had never been here before, and yet the man inside knew everything about him. He knocked. Alex opened the door, wearing sweatpants and a faded t-shirt. His expression was calm, almost too calm. Mr. Blake, he greeted with the same professional tone he always used. Wasn't expecting you tonight. Victor stepped inside uninvited. The small living room was neat but sparse. A framed picture of a little girl sat on the side table, Alex's daughter, if he remembered right. Victor didn't sit. He went straight to the point. You were at my house the night Amelia was attacked. Alex's jaw twitched. You think I hurt your wife? Victor's eyes narrowed. I think you know more than you're saying. I think you've been watching, listening, waiting. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Alex sighed and walked to a cabinet, pulling out a flash drive. I wasn't going to get involved, he said. But it's gone too far. Victor took the drive, his hands trembling. What's this? Footage. The real footage. From the backup system I installed. You forgot you asked me to double the security when Amelia first got pregnant, remember? You were paranoid about stalkers back then. Victor swallowed hard. He had forgotten. Alex continued, his voice lower now. I didn't delete anything. But I saw who did. Victor stared at him. Who? Alex hesitated, then said the name that made Victor's stomach turn inside out. Dr. Evelyn Monroe. Victor blinked, confused. Evelyn, Amelia's therapist. Alex nodded grimly. She's been feeding Veronica lies, manipulating Amelia. She's the one who suggested the home renovations that opened up the side entrance. She has the same code as you. Victor staggered back, the weight of it all crushing him. Evelyn. The woman Amelia trusted with her deepest wounds. The woman who had held her hand through grief therapy. The woman who had always been there when Victor wasn't. Alex leaned forward, his voice like steel. You think your affair was the only betrayal happening in that house? Wake up, Victor? You let a wolf into your family, and now she's sunk her teeth into everything. Victor's hands balled into fists. He had to confront her, but this time he wouldn't go alone. At dawn, Victor sat with Detective Hanley in the sterile confines of the precinct's glass-walled conference room. The footage from the flash drive played in the dim room. There she was, Dr. Evelyn Monroe, entering the house through the side door at 1:47 a.m., her silhouette unmistakable, calm, methodical, moving like someone who had done this before. Hanley leaned back, his expression grim. This changes everything. Victor rubbed his face, his mind racing. Why? Why would she? Hanley folded his arms. Because she was never there to heal Amelia Victor. She was there to break her. Maybe she resented her. Maybe she saw an opportunity to control you both. People like her. They wrap themselves around fragile people until they own them. Victor swallowed hard. The betrayal was deeper than he had ever imagined. Hanley pushed a folder toward him. We're pulling her records. She's been disciplined before for ethical violations. Emotional manipulation, inappropriate boundaries with patients. But nothing stuck. Until now. Victor's head spun. Does Amelia know? Hanley shook his head. Not yet. And I suggest you tell her yourself. That evening, Victor stood outside the NICU again. Inside, Amelia sat by Hope's side, humming softly to her, as the machines beeped their steady, fragile rhythm. Victor knocked gently on the glass door. She turned, her face still etched with exhaustion, with distance. But this time, he didn't hesitate. Amelia, he said quietly, I need to tell you something. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. He took a breath. It wasn't just Veronica. It was Evelyn. She's been manipulating you. She was the one who hurt you. Amelia's face drained of color. What are you talking about? Victor stepped closer, lowering his voice. We have footage. Proof. She's been feeding Veronica lies, using your grief to isolate you. Amelia's hands trembled. No, she wouldn't. She did, Victor said firmly, his voice breaking. She played both of us, used us, controlled us. She made you trust her while she tore us apart. Amelia sat down hard in the chair, her breathing ragged. She was the only person I told about Lily, she whispered. She knew how much pain I was in. Victor crouched before her, his hands shaking, as he reached for hers. "I'm so sorry, Amelia. I failed you. I failed both of you. But we can't let her win." Amelia looked into his eyes, and for the first time in weeks, something cracked. Not forgiveness, but understanding. Together, they would face the truth. No more secrets. No more running. They had lost enough. It was time to fight back. The meeting room at the hospital was eerily silent, its sterile walls reflecting the suffocating weight of the truth now resting squarely on Amelia's shoulders. She sat across from Detective Hanley, her hands cold despite the room's warmth. Beside her, Victor remained quiet, not daring to touch her unless she reached first. Hanley laid out the printed stills from the surveillance footage, spreading them across the table like the pieces of a macabre puzzle. Amelia stared at the images, her breath shallow. There was Evelyn, her therapist, her confidant, the woman who had sat across from her in soft-lit rooms, offering words of comfort, promising to guide her through grief, helping her cope with the loss of Lily. And yet there she was, caught on camera, calmly entering their house in the dead of night. Her badge granting her access to areas most staff never even considered. "Why?" Amelia finally whispered. Hanley leaned forward, his face etched with both professionalism and something more compassion. "We've seen patterns like this before, Mrs. Blake. Evelyn targeted you because she saw your vulnerability, your grief, your cracks. People like her, they don't fix wounds. They keep them open so you never stop needing them. It's a twisted kind of control." Amelia's heart thudded painfully in her chest. "And Veronica?" she asked. Did she know she was being used too?" Hanley shook his head. "Veronica was complicit, but also a pawn. She wanted to hurt you, but Evelyn wanted to own you. And Victor." Victor stiffened at that. It was a truth he hadn't dared say aloud. Evelyn hadn't wanted to destroy him. She had wanted to possess him. Amelia closed her eyes, fighting the wave of nausea that swept over her. All those sessions, all those intimate confessions, all those nights she wept into Evelyn's arms. They had been nothing more than a performance to her. Victor's voice was rough when he finally spoke. She said, "She loved you like a sister, Amelia." Amelia opened her eyes, glaring at him. Don't say her words. Not now." He nodded, chastised, silent again. Hanley placed a soft hand on the table. "She's under surveillance now. We'll have enough to arrest her within 24 hours. Amelia breathed in deeply, exhaled slowly. "I want to be there," she said, her voice steel beneath the cracks. "I want to face her." Hanley nodded. "You deserve that." 24 hours later, the conference room at the hospital where Evelyn often held staff meetings now became the setting for her downfall. Amelia entered first, flanked by Hanley and 2 uniformed officers. Evelyn sat at the head of the table, poised, as always, sipping coffee from a delicate porcelain cup, as if she still owned the room. "Amelia," she greeted smoothly. "You look pale. Are you sleeping at all?" Amelia's stomach turned at the faux concern. "No more games, Evelyn," she said, standing tall. "We know." Evelyn blinked, slowly. "Know what?" Hanley stepped forward, laying the evidence on the table, photos, footage, access logs. For the first time, Evelyn's mask faltered, but only for a second. Then she smiled, a cold, slithering smile. "You poor girl," she whispered. "You think this is over. You think exposing me will fix what's broken inside you. You'll still be empty, Amelia. You'll still wake up to nightmares of Lily, of the marriage you couldn't hold together, of the child who will never call you mom without associating it with pain." Victor, standing behind Amelia, clenched his fists. Amelia, to his surprise, remained steady. "You underestimated me, Evelyn," she said, her voice unwavering. "You thought you could trap me in my grief forever. But I see you now. And I see that you're just another woman, too broken to face her own pain, so you fed off mine." Evelyn's smile shattered. Hanley gave the nod. The officer stepped forward. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit assault evidence tampering and multiple counts of ethical violations," one officer read calmly as he cuffed Evelyn's hands. For the first time, Evelyn looked afraid. As she was led away, she hissed, "You think this makes you strong, Amelia? You're nothing. You're still that broken girl I met." Amelia smiled, but it wasn't the fragile, hollow smile Evelyn had seen for months. It was the smile of someone who had faced her demons and chosen to rise. "You're wrong, Evelyn. I'm not broken anymore. I'm rebuilt." That night, Victor sat outside the NICU, watching Hope sleep through the glass. Amelia joined him after a long silence. She didn't speak right away. Then finally she said thank you. He turned to her, confused. "For what?" "For believing me. For standing beside me today. Even if we'll never be what we were, I need you to know that mattered." Victor's throat tightened. "I don't care if we never find our way back to each other," he said, his voice cracking. "I just want to be worthy enough to stand beside you as Hope's father." Amelia reached for his hand. For the first time in weeks, she didn't pull away. "We'll figure it out," she whispered. They sat there together, not as husband and wife, but as survivors. And for the first time, the weight between them felt lighter. The courtroom buzzed with an energy that felt both suffocating and liberating. Reporters whispered behind cupped hands. Courtroom artists hurried to capture the moment, and every camera lens focused on the woman sitting at the front of the gallery, Amelia Blake. Victor sat 2 rows behind her, a quiet show of support. He wasn't in the spotlight today. This was Amelia's story to tell, her truth to reclaim. She adjusted the collar of her simple blouse. No designer brands, no carefully curated image. Today, she was just a mother, a woman, a survivor. The prosecutor stood and gestured toward her. "Mrs. Blake, can you describe in your own words the impact Dr. Evelyn Marks had on your life?" Amelia took a breath, steady but deliberate. "For years, I trusted Dr. Marks. She wasn't just my therapist. She was a friend, a mentor, a guiding voice in my darkest days. Or at least I thought she was." She paused, letting the weight of the betrayal settle over the room. But behind that trusted mask, she was manipulating me, exploiting my grief, gaslighting me into questioning my own sanity, all while orchestrating the events that nearly cost my daughter her life. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Amelia pressed on. She infiltrated my marriage, using Veronica Martin as a puppet. She tampered with surveillance, distorted my memories, and fed the worst parts of my doubt until I was isolated from everyone who truly cared for me. Her gaze drifted toward Victor, their eyes meeting. "I almost lost everything," she said softly. But I didn't. I found my voice. And today, I'm using it not to punish, but to make sure no other woman, no other family has to suffer at the hands of someone like Evelyn Marks. The prosecutor nodded. "Thank you, Mrs. Blake." When she stepped down, the room didn't erupt into applause, but there was something stronger respect, heavy and palpable. 2 months later, the verdict was clear. Dr. Evelyn Marks was sentenced to 15 years for conspiracy evidence tampering and gross ethical misconduct. Veronica Martin, already facing separate charges for assault and identity fraud, received a lesser sentence, but her name, her career, her carefully crafted persona destroyed. The courtroom victory felt hollow at first, because victory didn't bring Lily back. It didn't erase the scars on Amelia's heart, but it did give her something she hadn't had in a long time: control. Spring arrived slowly that year. Amelia sat on the porch of the small house she had moved into after the trial. It wasn't grand or impressive, but it was hers. Hope giggled in her arms, now strong enough to hold her head high to grip Amelia's fingers with surprising strength. Victor visited often. He didn't stay over. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But they co-parented with Grace, attending every appointment together, sharing quiet coffees while Hope napped, building something new from the ashes of what they once were. "I still don't know if I'm ready to forgive you," Amelia admitted one evening, as they watched Hope crawl toward the garden. Victor smiled sadly. "I don't need forgiveness. I just need to be worthy of standing here beside you." That was enough for now. 1 year later, Hope's first birthday, a simple backyard gathering. Close friends, a few colleagues from the hospital, some of the NICU nurses who had become part of Amelia's village. Hope sat in her high chair, smearing cake across her face, oblivious to the cheers around her. Amelia stood, watching the corners of her mouth softening into a smile she hadn't worn in years. Victor approached, holding a small wrap box. She gave him a curious look. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet engraved with 2 names, Hope and Lily. Amelia's breath caught. "I wanted both of them with you," Victor said quietly. "One who's here. One who's always in your heart." Tears welled, but she didn't shy away from them this time. "I don't know what our future looks like, Victor," she whispered. "But I know I'm not afraid of it anymore." Victor nodded. "And I'll stand wherever you'll have me." She smiled. "Then let's start by standing here." They stood side by side, watching Hope reach for the sky, as if the whole world was within her tiny grasp. Final reflections. In the months that followed, Amelia didn't erase the past. She wrote about it. Her essays appeared in magazines, journals, online communities, for women who had been silenced, gaslighted, manipulated. She became a voice for those who thought they were too broken to stand. Her scars were not hidden. She wore them like armor. Hope grew, took her first steps, spoke her first words. Amelia found peace, not the absence of pain, but the acceptance that healing was not linear. Victor remained part of their lives. They weren't what they once were, but they had something new: trust, respect, patience. And for Amelia, that was enough. In the aftermath of everything, betrayal, heartbreak, manipulation, Amelia Blake emerged not as a victim, but as a warrior forged by fire. The courtroom battles the public exposure of truths long buried the quiet nights filled with tears and self-reflection. They all led her here, to a life not free of scars, but beautifully defined by them. Amelia's story wasn't about perfection or picture book endings. It was about the messy, painful, and often lonely path of reclaiming one's voice in a world that tried to erase it. She didn't just survive what was done to her. She turned that survival into strength, into purpose. She rose not because someone saved her, but because she chose day after day to save herself. For anyone listening to Amelia's story, there is a deep, universal lesson to be found. The greatest betrayal is not from those who deceive us. It's when we abandon ourselves in the process of pleasing, trusting, or forgiving those who never deserved it. Amelia learned that hard truth, but instead of letting it harden her heart, she allowed it to refine her courage. She didn't erase the past. She grew around it, and perhaps the most profound realization is this: healing isn't a finish line. It's a continuous journey. It's in the small moments, holding your child's hand, watching them laugh, choosing to open the door when fear tells you to stay inside. It's in forgiving yourself for not seeing the red flags. It's in allowing yourself to rebuild on your terms with your values, your truth. For those of you facing heartbreak, betrayal, or the lingering weight of past wounds, remember what breaks you today doesn't have to define you tomorrow. You can stand back up. You can write a new story. And you don't need anyone's permission to begin. Start with one choice, one boundary, one act of self-respect. Because when you do, you teach others, your children, your friends, your community, that darkness doesn't get the last word. You do. And now, I turn this moment to you. What did Amelia's journey awaken in you? Have you ever faced a moment where the people you trusted most became the ones who hurt you the deepest? And if so, what was the turning point where you said, "Enough, I choose me"? I invite you to share your reflections, your lessons, your scars in the comments below. Not for pity, but as a way to inspire others who might still be standing in the shadows, waiting for a sign that they too can rise. And if this story touched something within you, please support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing this message. Your support is what keeps stories of courage, resilience, and truth alive in a world that still needs them. Together, let's build a space where no one feels they have to suffer in silence, where every Amelia out there knows they are never alone. Thank you for listening.